Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Aaron Blade, and I am the editor, creator, and producer of what you're watching right now, Blade Talk. If you are new here, welcome, and you find this presentation helpful and informative, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. I always appreciate all the support that I am given. So in today's presentation, it's going to be a little bit different. I had someone message me and gave me a list of interview questions for her education class. So, of course, I always want to do my part to spread the knowledge of Judaism, what it's like to be Jewish, things like that. So I thought in this presentation I would answer a series of questions that she had for me in regards to being Jewish and the state of Judaism today. So if you're interested, stick around. Let's hit that intro and let's begin. Alright, so again, I love doing my part as a Jew and spreading knowledge about Judaism and what it's like to be Jewish. So that being said, first question we have, what are some major events that happen to the Jewish community? Well, we've been around for over 3,000 years. We have seen civilizations come and go. We've had a great view to see the world unfold. If you're asking me specifically about the Jewish community, the biggest event I would have to say is the national revelation that all the Jews witnessed. Cecil B. DeMille made a movie called The Ten Commandments, in which Moses goes up to the mountain and comes back down with the tablets, which is partially right. You see, before Moses went up to the mountain to get those tablets, the Jewish people actually doubted Moses and wanted God to speak to them, no mediator. And God said, okay. And in front of 3 million men, women, and children, God came down and spoke to everyone and stated, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, which means, Hear, O Israel, the Lord, your God, is one God. Now, obviously, we couldn't take hearing the voice of God, so we begged Moses to mediate on our behalf. But that has to be the single most biggest event in Jewish history and the world, if I'm being honest with you. There were other major events, for example, us going into the promised land of Israel. We finally found a home after wandering in the desert for 40 years. Then there was surviving persecution, when you have the Babylonians, the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Christians, the Muslims, the Nazis, all vowing to wipe us off the face of the planet at one time. Surviving persecution, I would say, is another huge event in our community. We've also had great tragedy in our community. We were expelled from our land for not upholding our end of the bargain with God or upholding our commandments. The day that our first temple was destroyed after 410 years of standing. The day that our second temple was destroyed after 420 years of standing. Then, of course, there was the Holocaust, the Spanish Inquisition in 1492 that expelled Jews from Spain. So we've had definitely our ups and downs and major events in Jewish history. Second question, can you tell me about growing up being raised Jewish? Sure, although keep in mind that my mother wasn't very religious. I grew up having religious talks and talks about God with my grandmother. We would have Shabbat dinners and things like that. She passed away when I was 15 years old, but before then, I would always go to her house and learn about God, morals, principles, values, etc. I was a sponge as a kid, so when I rebelled, as most teenagers do, I always found myself coming back to the principles and the foundation that she instilled in me. Number 3, what are some positive and negative reactions you get from others when you disclose you are Jewish? When I inform people that I'm Jewish, and not just a secular Jew or anything like that, I mean an actual practicing Jew. I wear the funny hat and everything, right? I get a mixed reaction. Most don't honestly know about it, hence why I created this channel. To teach people from a Jewish perspective. Most people have this idea that Jews are pale skinned, have the curly sideburns, but this is far from the case. In fact, did you know that in Israel, over 70% of Jews are dark skinned? A statistical majority, actually. We in America have this closed-minded perception of what Jews look like, and it's the pale skin and curly sideburns because Ashkenazi Jews or European Jews fled persecution and anti-Semitism in Europe, and about 90% of them migrated to America. But in truth, there are Spanish Jews, there are African Jews, Iraqi Jews, American Jews, Italian Jews, etc., etc. We come in all different shades and all different backgrounds, races, etc. Number 4, did you attend a Jewish school? If so, do you think it is the same as a public school? I did for a short time. My daughter attends a Jewish day school, actually. I think it differs from the public school in the sense that you get to be more attached to your culture and your heritage if you go to a Jewish school. You get more to learn more about morals and values and principles and things that you can really hold on to and consider your foundation. Obviously, in public schools with state funding, you can't really teach about religion and whatnot. I mean, you can, but it can't be centered around one particular religion. You have to cover all the religions and whatnot. And a lot of times that may confuse children and they may reject religion outright because it's just too many options, too many things. So I like Jewish schools because they instill a foundation of morals and principles that they can live by and help them be a better person. Now every child rebels at some point, but most, like myself, always find our way back home. And that comes from having a solid foundation. Number 5, can you tell me the difference, I'm assuming, between Jewish school and public school? Sure, public schools are for everyone, so you can't show favoritism to any particular belief system or religion, things like that. Jewish day school teaches you Hebrew, the Torah, our leaders in Jewish history, teaches you about Zionism, the state of Israel, about our music, our culture, our food, our holidays, and about God. That is our history as Jews, so we take it more seriously than other groups of people. These aren't just imaginary stories or fiction. These are events that took place that happened to the Jewish people. Number 6, what are some struggles you are facing now? My biggest struggle being Jewish is trying to change the world and decrease anti-Semitism, and understand that it takes courage in order to change people's hearts. Jews have been tasked with trying to make the world a better place. That's why we are considered the chosen people. We're chosen to tell people about God. We're chosen to tell people about the Torah. We're chosen to help make the world a better place. And sometimes it's frustrating and hard, which is why you have so many secular Jews out there that have essentially given up on the mission. They don't care about the Torah or God or what have you. They've completely wrote it off because it is frustrating. It's a hard task where you have Christianity that believes in being a good person, but you'll be rewarded. It's kind of like a bargain. Same with Islam. You do right in this world and you'll get rewarded in the afterlife. Judaism teaches something different. You're not doing this for reward. You're doing this to get close to God, and you're making this world a better place. So it puts more emphasis on making this world better. Whereas Christianity and Islam, for example, has completely given up on this world. They're trying to get to a better place. Whereas Jews were trying to make this world a better place so that God can come down and dwell in this world. So that's my biggest struggle. Another one is the constant infighting amongst my fellow Jews. You have Reformed Jews that attack Orthodox and say that they're backwards thinking and whatnot. And then you have Orthodox Jews that say that other Jews aren't really Jews and whatnot, denying them their heritage and their culture and whatnot. So the constant infighting amongst us, and the idea that we don't have the numbers to sit here and attack each other like this. We're a small group of people. And in the face of anti-Semitism, it doesn't matter whether you're a Reformed Jew or a conservative Jew or Orthodox. It doesn't matter. And I reject the labels outright. I believe that there are Jews that practice orthodoxly. There are Jews that practice, like myself, conservatively. And there are Jews that practice Reform. But nobody is born Orthodox or born Reform. It's their choice. And there's too much anti-Semitism in the world, and they don't make a distinction. Ironically, when tragedy strikes, we all come together and it makes us stronger. So there is a bit of hope in that. I just hate seeing the attacks between Jews. Now, if you want to debate and discuss ideas and whatnot, I'm here for it. But when you throw insults and you deny that someone else is Jewish because they don't believe the same way you believe, then I believe that that's going too far. Number 7, do you still see prejudices towards the Jewish community? Absolutely. People fear what they don't understand. As a matter of fact, especially on high holy days, there's usually an armed guard or security or police at synagogues because of the level of anti-Semitism. It increased drastically after the October 7th incident, in which terrorists murdered, raped, and killed innocent Jews in Israel. So again, people fear what they don't understand. They get most of their information from either someone who isn't Jewish at all, or someone who is a secular Jew that isn't involved in the culture, isn't involved in the heritage. They don't care much about it at all. So I seen Jewish kids get harassed on college campuses after October 7th. I've watched people get turned down once they get disclose that they're Jewish. I watched them get turned down for romantic relationships once they disclose that they're Jewish. I've watched Jews here in America get blamed for things that Israel has done, even though we have no say in what that government chooses to do. I've watched Hebrew Israelites say that we're not really Jewish and we stole their identity and whatnot, and deny that the Holocaust ever happened. I've watched neo-Nazis say that Jews won't replace them, whatever that means. I have watched Christians donate millions of dollars to try to convert Jews to Christianity in an effort to save us. So anti-Semitism is alive and well, and we still have those struggles that we face today. Number 8, what are some positive aspects that the Jewish community and faith gave you? My community and faith has given me the strength to carry on the mission to make the world a better place. I want to do my part to make the world better. My faith in God and channeling the strength of my ancestors is what gives me focus and purpose to unlock my full potential. As I stated in my presentation, Why Be Jewish? I'll link that at the end of this presentation. The positive aspect of being Jewish is that God has given us this wonderful opportunity to get close to Him. That's the whole idea behind being Jewish. It's to have a relationship with God. And when I'm involved with my Jewish community, it gives me a sense of pride because on certain holidays, I'm not the only one fasting. I'm not the only one that is observing Shabbat. Basically, I'm not alone. And I love that feeling that there are still people that believe and practice and believe in the mission and what we're tasked to do as Jews on this earth. So it helps me a great deal and keeps me centered. I live my life according to the Torah. That doesn't mean I live it perfectly by any means, but I'm trying to do better, which is what I believe God wants ultimately. Number 9, how did it help you become who you are today? It's helped me in a numerous amount of ways. It has given me purpose and identity, a culture, a heritage, a belief system. It has helped me embrace who I am and not be ashamed of it. Number 10, what is your favorite Jewish holiday? Could you tell me the history and why it is so significant for you? Absolutely. My favorite Jewish holiday is Shavuot. For those that don't know, Shavuot is the day Jews received, the day that we celebrate receiving the Torah, or the 5 books of Moses. And fun fact, did you know that we actually overslept the day that we were supposed to receive the law by God? Moses had to wake us up, essentially. Now, in honor of that tradition, we stay up late and we study the Torah. Shavuot takes place 7 weeks after Pesach, or Passover, and is custom to eat dairy foods like cheesecake and things like that, the same way that our ancestors did at Mount Sinai. So for me, that is the day that God listed what His standard was for humanity. That was the day that God, in His great mercy, said, if you want to have a relationship with me, this is how you do it. So Shavuot is, to me, my favorite and the most meaningful holiday, because that was the day that God allowed us to be closer to Him. Hope that answers that question. Number 11, if I were to join you for a sermon at your place of worship, what would the day look like? Honestly, it would depend. Sometimes I go to a modern Orthodox shul, and other times I'll attend a conservative service. Orthodox believe in separating the men and the women with a mechitza or a curtain. This is so men don't get distracted by looking at the beautiful women in the synagogue. Conservative Jews don't believe in the separation of the sexes, and they're really big into egalitarianism. But if you were to go, you will find a lot of prayers in Hebrew. And honestly, it's off-putting at first. But understand that the transliteration is available in the prayer book or in the Siddur. And we typically sing the prayers. So even if you don't know the words, you can at least hum the melody that goes along with it. Jewish services are very repetitive and routine, and there are pros and cons to that idea. The con is that for people that have been Jewish for quite some time, or you're born into it, it gets stale, it's boring, The pro is that because we take this approach, no matter where you are in the world, you can always find a local synagogue and follow along with the sermon because everyone says the same prayers more or less. Some just use different melodies that you may have to catch on to. Number 12, do you have to be Jewish to attend a service? Absolutely not. I encourage people to attend services and keep an open mind. You may need to check with someone who goes regularly or alert the rabbi if you want to visit. Again, this is a safety precaution because of the level of anti-Semitism that there is at this time. But I encourage everyone to keep an open mind and visit a synagogue. 13, can you tell me about your childhood, education, and experiences as a child being Jewish? My childhood was excellent. I had two loving parents, and they were both military, so I traveled quite a bit as a child. But I would always come home to Wisconsin to my grandmother, though, on breaks, any kind of break that I had, I always wanted to come and be near my grandmother. I was her favorite grandson, so a lot of time was spent with her, learning from her and wanting to be the symbol of grace that she stood for. Being Jewish when I was young was fun. And of course, at that time, when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, religion was big in communities. It was huge. And I looked at rabbis as moral examples and inspirations, and I had the highest level of respect for them, and I still do. I was a sponge as a child. I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could. One of my favorite prophets and kings in Jewish history, honestly, was King Solomon. His wisdom was unparalleled, and I wanted that. Again, this was a time before cell phones and social media and everybody being afraid to be an individual or think for themselves. I miss the emphasis that people placed on religion because it gives people purpose and meaning to their life. Today, everyone is trying to make God an afterthought, and statistically, people are getting away from religion now, which is why I feel people are slipping into a depression or anxiety is at an all-time high. It turns out when you strip people of their purpose in life, it has disastrous effects. I believe in God's existence, as Ben Shapiro stated, because I believe in free will. If you believe that human beings are just balls of meat wandering around aimlessly in the universe and don't believe in free will, there is an internal coherence and logic to it. If, on the other hand, you believe that you have the ability to make independent choices, or that you can supersede your own biological drives and the environment around you to any extent, this means that you believe in something that can't actually be proved by science, but you are living every single day. The notion that you have that will, and that will is capable of comprehending the universe around you, or your ability to comprehend the universe, is a reflection of a reality, of an objective truth that is out there. That says to me there is a common source that stands behind that objective truth and stands behind the mind that can comprehend that truth, which I believe is God. Number 14, how did it impact your education? So Jews have always been encouraged to seek education. We're taught that from an early age. Studying the Torah is actually a huge law in itself. It's a mitzvah in itself to study the Torah, the Talmud, and we as Jews, we do it every single day. I chose to take it outside of Judaism, though, and read the New Testament. I've read the Quran. I've read the Bhagavad Gitas in Hinduism, and what I found is that no one has been able to produce one new thing ethically since the Torah has been given. Jesus didn't bring anything new ethically. Muhammad didn't bring anything new ethically. So both Christianity and Islam had to find ways to make the Torah irrelevant in order to justify their existence. Remember, Judaism can stand even if Christianity and Islam falls. The same can't be said the other way around. So to me, I feel like Judaism is the most pure. And again, I don't feel that the Torah really needs a sequel. Again, no one has produced anything new ethically since the Torah has been given. People get so caught up in trying to find something wrong with the Torah in order to justify their preconceived notions, though. So they may go to a law and that makes no sense to them, or something that doesn't appear scientifically accurate, and they use it to justify being an atheist, or this is why you need Jesus, or this is why you need the Quran instead of that, etc., etc. Christians believe that the Torah is the end, Jesus is the end of the law, and Muslims believe that Jews corrupted the law. But if you ask most of them, have you even read what the law is? Most will say no. And that's what's sad. If you don't have an open mind enough to actually read the beginning of the story, you jump straight to the middle and think that you know everything there is to know. For me, the Torah doesn't need a sequel. And if you actually state that the law has been changed or is irrelevant now, you'll understand how horrible that sentiment actually is. Do you know what the law says? To honor your mother and your father, to be honest in business transaction, to love your neighbor as you love yourself, to practice good hygiene, to not steal, to not murder. Do you actually know what the law actually says? And if you do, then there is no way that you would look at someone being the end of the law, or we don't have to follow the law anymore, as a positive. Okay. People just like to look at things through their preconceived notions and then twist it and turn it to make it say whatever they want to say. That's why it's important to understand that along with the Torah isn't something that you can just pick up and read at face value, because there's an oral tradition that goes along with the Torah that Jews have that help you understand what you're reading. Most Christians, for example, will say that, well, Jews sacrificed animals, but they can't tell you which animal, what day, how it was done. And looking at that now in the 21st century, we would find that appalling. But you have to look at the context. Context is that animals were considered currency. First of all, only the wealthiest amongst us actually brought an animal. So it was very rare that people would just bring animals because most couldn't afford it. Animals were currency, and you have to look at it as not the animal itself, but what you were giving up for God. If you gave up an animal, you're giving up food for your family. And in the ancient world, they understood that there was something bigger than themselves. See, most don't care about animals as long as you can get that Big Mac from McDonald's or get that Whopper from Burger King. But the idea that you would sacrifice an animal to God is just appalling to some. They can't fathom it. Why would you do such a thing? But it's okay if you get something out of it. If it provides sustenance for that human being, it's okay. Again, animals were considered currency, is what you're giving up for God. And look at the way that the animal was slaughtered. It was slaughtered in a way that it feels no pain. Go ahead and Google or YouTube what animals go through and how painful their death is just so you can have that Big Mac. So again, it's understanding what you're reading. Most don't have the oral tradition that goes along with the Torah, which is why it's encouraged in Judaism to have a teacher-student relationship. The Torah doesn't tell you how to get married, how to get divorced, how to convert to Judaism if you want to. Certain things were left orally. And so to the average person that picks up the book and says, hey, see this chapter and this is wrong. Well, what does the oral tradition say about it? Most don't want to actually find out. So again, for me, being Jewish is amazing. It is fulfilling. I love every bit of it. It comes with struggles, but I stay the course. And my goal is to leave behind a legacy that my daughter and my grandchildren can be proud of. I don't want people to tell people about my military service or the other accolades that I've achieved in my life. That's not important. I want to be known by people remembering that at one point in time, Aaron Blade tried to help someone. And if I helped any of you, then my living hasn't been in vain. That's all I want. And I've received emails and messages, comments about how, I'm converting conservative, or I'm, converting reform, or whatever the case may be. Again, it's not so much about being Jewish, but if you're trying to be a better person, then I feel like it's all worth it. And of course, you get people that criticize you for what you're doing, but that comes with the territory. I just want to help someone in need and help them unlock their full potential and find their purpose in life, and at the same time build a relationship with God. So again, if I can just help one, then my living hasn't been in vain. So if you found this presentation helpful and informative, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. I always appreciate all the support that I am given. Thank you all so much for supporting me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Be good to yourselves, be good to others, and until the next episode, you all take care.